From The Fever. Science writing by Sonia Shaw. Most pathogens mellow as they age. It's enlightened self-interest, as the theory goes. Diminishing virulence is a superior strategy for survival. It doesn't make much sense for a pathogen to rapidly destroy its victim. A dead body just means it's time to move on. Take measles and smallpox, for example. In Europe, when those pathogens first emerged, they were probably reckless killers, taking millions of lives. The survivors learned how to withstand the disease's ravages, though, and in time, both measles and smallpox settled into being unremarkable childhood illnesses, felling scores only when encountering virgin populations, such as those in the New World of the 15th century. Which begs the question as to malaria's tenacity and continuing malevolence. Malaria has been plaguing humans in Africa for some 500,000 years, with the first encounters between human, mosquito, and malaria parasite probably occurring around the time our ancestors discovered fire. Malaria existed in Africa before then, too, feeding on the birds, chimps, and monkeys that lived in the canopy. We've had plenty of time, our entire evolutionary history, in fact, to adapt to malaria, and it to us, or at least to devise tools and strategies to blunt its appetite. And yet, despite the millennia-long battles between us, malaria still manages to infect at least 300 million of us. That is 1 out of 21 human beings on the planet, and kills nearly 1 million year after year. As an extinguisher of human lives, write the malariologists Richard Carter and Kamini Mendis, malaria historically and to this day has few rivals. It remains essentially wild and untamed, despite its great antiquity. And experts such as Terry Taylor have spent lifetimes trying to figure out why. One simple reason for malaria's ferocity is that the protozoan creature that causes the disease is, by definition, a cheater at the game of life. It is a parasite, a creature that can eke out its livelihood only by depleting others of theirs. The rest of us all do our obscure little part in the drama of life, weaving ourselves deeper into local ecology and strengthening its fabric. The bees pollinating the flowers, predators culling the herds of their weakest members. Parasites don't help anyone. They're degenerates. Take the parasitic barnacle, Sacculina carcini. It is born with a head, mouth, segmented body, and legs, just like any respectable barnacle. But then, because it is a parasite, it stops developing into an independent creature. It burrows into the shells of the crabs off of which it will spend its life feeding. There, it loses its segments, its legs, its tail, and even its mouth, devolving into a pulsing plant-like form, little more than a blob with tendrils sucking food from the forlorn crab's body. It's the very definition of repellent. In 1883, Scottish lecturer Henry Drummond called parasitism one of the gravest crimes of nature and a breach of the law of evolution. Who can blame him? And yet, parasites such as Plasmodium are not anomalous on this earth. According to the science writer Carl Zimmer, 1/3 of all described species practice the parasitic lifestyle. To be fair, for Plasmodium, parasitism arose as an accommodation to newfound opportunities, not because of any intrinsic quality or irreversible mechanism within it. Plasmodium did not start out life hardwired to steal. This killer first emerged on the planet as a plant-like creature, most likely some kind of aquatic algae. We know this because 10% of the proteins in modern-day Plasmodium parasites contain vestiges of the machinery of photosynthesis. Plasmodium's ancestors probably rubbed shoulders with the eggs and larvae of mosquitoes, similarly floating on sun-dappled waters. When the mosquitoes took wing, malaria's ancestors likely went quietly along with them. It must have happened then and again that when a mosquito pierced a bird or chimp or some other blood-filled creature, malaria's algae ancestors fell into the wound, most probably died. But through the blind ticking clock of evolution, one day some subset of the interlopers found themselves thriving in those crimson seas, and a vampiric parasite was born. Such are the ironies of surviving on this protean planet. A creature at the very bottom of the zoological scale, a humble being beneficently converting sunlight into living tissue, and thereby providing the basis for the planet's entire food chain, turns into one of the most ruthlessly successful parasites ever known, commanding two separate spheres of the living world, human and entomological. Henry Drummond would have been appalled.